move that Tony request for 10 days meeting of the JMRL board remotely due to a temporary or permanent disability or other medical condition that prevents their physical attendance be approved.
We can't vote. So only you two are voting.
Oh, yeah.
Aye.
Lovely.
You've been approved, Tony. Thank you for joining us. And so we are ready to go, I guess. So the meeting will come to order, and our agenda for today is the discussion of the draft equipment budget and what we need to recommend to the rest of the board.
Okay, do you want me to pull it up on screen here?
And then AJ is not here to go through all of it.
He prepped me well. I'm prepared.
Okay, because it seemed very reasonable and target, so I didn't.
Positive balance for the end of the year.
Anticipated, yes. Yes. So just as a brief refresher for you all and any members of the public that are watching, the equipment budget that JMRL relies on for all equipment, so tables, chairs, computers, box trucks, all those sorts of things, are the incoming revenue that JMRL receives largely from fines and fees throughout the year. So it's kept in a separate accounting method by the city of Charlottesville. And every year in the spring, managers will make requests for the needs of their branch for the following fiscal year. Those then come into AJ and I will go through them and collect them and put them in this document for you all, make some choices if there are some things to decide right up front, and then present them to the Budget Finance Committee to discuss. This committee will discuss, make any changes that they want to make that we can make on the spot, or send it back to staff for us to change anything, and then make a recommendation to the full board. In theory, that recommendation would be this month in May, so it will be part of their handouts, and then the full board will vote on the full budget in June, which they will have to do anyway. Yeah, it has to be approved anyway. So as Martha said, the first page here is just a little summary of where the equipment fund is as we speak. It's the anticipated year-end fund balance, so that'll be the amount of money that will be in the fund at the end of this fiscal year, which is the end of June. Projected revenue for next year, the projected expenses based on these requests, and then the anticipated year-end fund balance at the end of June of 2024. So that's still a fairly healthy fund balance there. The requests outstrip the revenue projections a little bit, so we're spending a little bit more than we anticipate bringing in a year. But last year's was pretty healthy too, but the 2 years before that during COVID, we had much smaller requests because of basically we weren't fully open for things, and we told managers, hold on, let's figure out where we are in a financial picture in a couple of years. So now it's in a couple of years. Here we go.
I have a question.
Shoot.
We have a projected revenue for fiscal year 24 of a certain amount. Is that amount prior to COVID about how much we make a year of fines and fees?
It is based on the last year's revenue and an average of the last 2 months, because we don't know what, so it's based on this current year basically. So it's based on a post-COVID year of what fines and fees look like. Does that answer your question?
Historically, has it been about that amount?
On
the COVID year?
Historically, the revenue coming in, I think, has been maybe a little higher than that. Twofold on that. One is that until when did we make the juvenile card change? Yeah. No fines for kids.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago though, maybe up to 10 years ago, right? So there was a drop then, and then we're seeing a little bit of a decrease too because of the amount of digital circulation we have, which doesn't have any fines or fees attached because they automatically, exactly. So I didn't bring the revenue. I do have in front of me a list of some of the historic balances, and they have been very high during COVID. It was up there and we weren't spending a lot. So it was over the $500,000 mark for a bit, but prior to that, it usually was somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000 for the balance that's in there. So that leaves us some flexibility. If we need to go buy a box truck now, we could do that, although it would leave us a little short on some other things throughout the year. So great question. Thank you. And then we can go through, we have by branch and department, and then the IT elements are in here as well. I will say that AJ and I went through and pulled out some larger scale projects that we're interested in asking the Friends of the Library Endowment to fund. So basically, like the motion that the board passed last month to allow grants this year from the Friends of the Library Endowment, we would do something similar next year. And I'll name what those are, just so you'll be aware that these were requests that didn't make it into this packet here. It's basically a reconfiguration of the young adult area at the Gordon Avenue Library, which is largely furniture. They're going to remove some older furniture and put some new furniture in. And we're going to go to the Friends of the Library and ask them if they would fund that. It is a train engine at the Central Children's Department, non-operational. It's a shelving and climbing on unit basically that goes in the children's area that I think the Friends would be interested in funding, because it's not a have to have, but it would be very nice and nice. Yeah. It is some furniture for the lobby at the Greene County Library. The furniture there has been there now for 20 years. It's shared, you know, between JABA and the library and all the other agencies in the building. But our Friends, I think, would support that project. And there is a Greene County fund in that fund of library of Friends funding that's left over from the building construction itself. So that seems like an appropriate cost there. And it is every AWE machine that was asked for. These are the children's software computers that are in the children's rooms throughout JMRL. They are very colorful, bright, read stories to kids, very popular. They're designed for children to use, and they are aging out. The ones that we got here, we got when the building opened. So, you know, coming up on 10 years some places. So they are aging out, and it was a large cost in the equipment budget to replace those. And again, they seem like be nice to have, not a deal breaker. So we're going to ask the Friends if they would consider funding those.
The ones that I saw, they were really nice, you know,
They're nice.
and, you know, I can see my great granddaughter on rather than on my computer, you know.
Colorful
The big-
keyboard.
yeah.
Yeah. All this little.
Yes.
Yeah.
Child and operator.
So just so you're aware, those things were removed there. There was a request also from Crozet for a stationary bike fixing apparatus. It's called a Fix It Plus with Air Kit. And you might have seen these around. It looks kind of like a bike rack, and it's cemented to the ground, and people can put their bicycles on it, and it's got tools and air, fill up the tires and things like that. So we talked to Albemarle County about that. They are interested. They would help with the installation of it, but JMRL would need to fund it. Again, it seemed like a nice to have, not a deal breaker. So we'll ask the Friends about that as well.
Back to the children's computers.
Yeah.
Approximately how many is that?
It was, they're in a little few separate areas. So here's, I think 2 for Central Children's. This just has the costs on it. 2 for Crozet. 2 for Northside, and then another version of it for Northside, a third one for Northside that's slightly different. It's called the After School Edge.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
older.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
But
3
everything is
total.
very preschool oriented, and we decided since they make one for older kids, that would be good to have.
So that was 7 of them total, and the total costs there were somewhere around between $20,000 and $25,000. So the Friends of the Library Endowment Advisory Committee will meet in July, and that's made up of the president and vice president of the library board and the president and vice president of the Friends of the Library and myself, and they will review funding for requests, and these will be part of that.
Just
That
a
was-
curiosity, how much
Sure.
is that stationary bike fixing that level?
I removed the cost here, but I think it was around $5,000. So it was pretty expensive. And we'll continue to ask Albemarle County if maybe it's part of their master plan as well. And, you know, for the biking community in Crozet, maybe there's a way we could share some funding for that.
Is that they get that much bike traffic?
That's what the staff says. Yeah. There's a lot of growth in that area and a lot of growth coming. The county's plan, it's happening. There's a development coming in just up Library Avenue. They're going to extend Library Avenue, and there's a huge mixed-use development coming in, including with an amphitheater of sorts, like an outdoor performance space. So they're anticipating even more need moving forward.
And certain trustees have been known to bike to the library. So there you go.
Thank you, Tony. Tony says he bikes to the library in Crozet.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a large biking community
Yeah.
in that area.
I think it would be very well supported. You know, I think people would love to have it. Yeah.
And there's some of those in the city already in certain places.
UVA has 3 of them that they've put up.
But I feel like there were some at some of the public parks and states.
Yeah, I
I
don't-
don't know if they're still as operational as they were when they were first put in, but like at Riverview Park and down at the visitor center used to be one.
I'm not sure about that. I looked it up to see where they were locally. And UVA had gotten a grant and put up 3 of them, but it was a while ago. It was like 10 years ago. So
A lot of bikes,
Yeah.
obviously.
yeah, the main library would be a good place for one as well. So
Put one down there for me.
just put 2 on there.
Bike repair guy on Saturday at the How To Festival.
He was great.
He's one of the busiest guys.
He was the most
Yeah.
popular man there. Yeah, he was still there when everybody else was gone after the festival.
We'll just have him every, sit out front, open the door.
Okay, any other questions about, so those were the first round of cuts. That was the only round of cuts that the business manager and myself made, and they aren't really cuts. We're gonna seek alternate funding for them. So there was nothing that we said no to, except for Scottsville was looking for a new exterior book return, but between that request and now, we have had repairmen go and work on their current one. They were getting some water into it. So we think that we've got a solution and it doesn't require an entire replacement. But if it does, that would be something we'd have to address mid-year, because you can't have a book return that lets water come in. And Central Reference had asked for Krista, how do you pronounce it? Cricut or Cricut? A Cricut machine, but we're already getting one for the digital media lab in the central library. So rather than have 2 there, they can share the one. Okay. So everything else is in your packet there. There are some overhead things for administration here that first section that get paid for annually, the credit card fees and collections fees and you know what, I definitely should have asked AJ what the service contracts were, but I will email that out to you all. But these are things that we have paid for every year out of the equipment budget. I think there's an argument to make that they should probably be moved into the operational budget once you're paying for them annually and they're not equipment themselves. Like these the collections fees are the fees that JMRL pays for the agency that tries to contact people who've got delinquent accounts and materials out. So that should be an operational cost, but it was not budgeted for because we have traditionally supported it from the equipment fund. But as we talk about the future of the equipment fund, there are some things here that we would try to move out, I think, and put into operational costs.
Wouldn't the service contracts? be
They
operational?
probably should be operational, yes. They are not currently. This is a way to save money from our jurisdictions rather than asking them to split these costs. JMRL has covered them, but we should probably get an in-depth list of them as we look at budgeting for operational 25 and look to see what we can move.
But the third one is contractual. Other people.
Yes, I'm not sure what that specifically refers to. I'd have to have AJ here.
Spelled wrong or I can't see.
Oh, contactual?
Yeah, contractual.
So,
Probably like maintenance of
Ooh,
some
we
of
better
their
watch
copy
out for that.
machines and things like that.
that's what I was thinking. If
We have
the coin
contracts on some of the
machines and
machines.
I think it probably is exactly that. The who's the outfit that services the copy machines? Yeah, it's probably exactly that, but you are correct. It's missing an R.
and machines and all the
Yes,
stuff that
the
goes with
JMX,
it. Right.
yeah. Okay, so Bookmobile is asking for one of these Cricut makers, Cricut, thank you.
The light bulbs.
Light bulbs that they need, yes, we can probably get those early.
Light bulbs.
Krista, can you explain what a Cricut maker is?
Not really,
It's a digital,
Laminate.
Yeah.
no, it's not a
I mean,
laminator,
not
it's a
laminate, but
a die cutter.
it's a
Yeah.
die cutter. It's like a, we had the
I
old
was using one
fashioned,
this morning.
Yeah, we had the old fashioned ones that were made out of wood blocks.
Ellison
We just-
does, yeah.
Yeah,
And
we
now
were
they're-
thinking we should have those available.
You connect it to a computer.
Yes.
The new ones, yes.
And you can
make
make
all
all
sorts of
design,
things.
yeah,
Right.
we have one, they use it all the time.
And every craft person.
They use it
Okay,
to
good.
help make displays, they use it to make magnets and stickers and all sorts of
And
things.
the Cricut actually can resize as where the Ellison, you know, whatever that was, that's the size. And it can go from like.
We do still
half
have the
to
Ellison,
about
I was
almost 2
thinking we
feet,
should
some of
have
them.
those.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Cause they're on the third, the Ellison, you know, the old fashioned
Yes.
Ellison,
Yeah.
you put those in the lab and people could use them.
Sure.
Like, there's some.
Make
of them are to, like,
spaces,
make
yeah.
Bookmarks, like teddy bear bookmarks
Oh,
or
yeah. Well, I
like finger puppets,
I
things
had to
like that.
go back and beg people at the library and they can cut that or.
Okay, so Central's request here, a couple things to note here. There is a regional request kind of tucked in here. It's this outreach retractable banner stand for each branch. So that's not just serving the Central Library. That would be one for each branch. I think because it came from Krista as part of a discussion you were having with staff doing
the
outreach.
idea, right, want to make sure that everybody has, we don't have to ship stuff around every time somebody's doing. an outreach
Going to an
event.
event, right?
Yeah, and we also talked about tablecloths, that's separate from this. but
Okay.
that's-
What is an outreach banner stand?
It's those freestanding
Vertical
vertical
signs.
signs that you'll see if you go to a festival or a fair.
Yeah, some of them are on, you have tabletop ones,
Right.
and you have some that.
Yeah,
on
the
the
book
floor.
festival had them, like,
Yeah.
you know, we've been talking about it for years.
So it would be one that just had JMRL branding. So if your staff was going to an event, or even if you were having like the job fairs in here. Yes, you take it with you and then you roll it up and it says, here we
I
are.
was visualizing having to make the banner.
No,
No.
The tablecloths, you get another.
We love the tablecloth.
So the other big ticket item in Central's request is all new folding tables for and stacking chairs for the Swanson room. I fully support this, having spent some time the other day taking down the tables and chairs that were there and then coming here where everything's on wheels. How old do you think those are?
8 to 10 years. I replace a few every year for Costco. Usually right now we're using like the white tables that you
Oh, yeah.
flip up and pull the legs out and then, you know, they're stacked on top of each other. And, yeah, we would still use those maybe for some outdoor, like what we did on Saturday. We
Yeah.
would go outside, but it is a lot to set up.
And that led me to a question of what do we do with used equipment such as that?
Right, so sometimes
case
it's
it gets
it's
used.
broken and it gets thrown away, but some of it goes to the city yard, has
Yeah.
like a excess inventory sale that they do. And that's where most of it goes, if it's usable.
Correct. They'll sell it. The city of Charleston's procurement department will sell it for us and then bank those funds for JMRL. So we do get value back from things as long, as Krista said, as long as they're not broken. The chairs as well in the Swanson room, we get complaints about, they're not that comfortable.
They're not as comfortable.
Any other questions? Let's look at all of Central as a whole there. So, and then the young adult area is looking for a wood back stool vinyl seat. Okay. Crozet's young adult looking for replacements for the children's chair and a replacement stool, replacement parts.
That looks like Central YA to me.
Yes, thank you. That's Central YA. No, that's
Crozet.
Crozet, yeah.
The heading is wrong. The heading is wrong.
But they're below, yeah,
Oh, there, yeah.
it's below.
This is for the Central Young Adult Rosé.
Yeah, it could be. I'll take a look at that, Tony. Just to make sure that they're consistent.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Okay, so Gordon Avenue looking for, I mentioned the young adult furniture, which we're gonna look at as a project and ask the Friends of the Endowment if they could support it. So these are various other things throughout the building there. Anything to point out here
Where's the picnic table gonna go?
outside?
Like where? I'm just saying because the picnic table in certain areas there could get used by a lot of different people where it's in the garden area. I guess it's not gonna be in the garden.
I'm not sure
Okay.
where it is. Yeah. I would assume that it's either gonna be in the little garden for Nancy Swigert or
the
down
lot
in the
next to
big,
the park
yeah.
lot, Yeah.
which I think that would be
Yeah,
fine if people were using it, yeah. Okay, Green County, I mentioned the furniture in the lobby, we're gonna be asking the Friends support for, so this is all inside the building there.
What is the? We're calling it a circuit, but it's CRI.
Cricket,
Cricket.
Same thing,
It's-
just a
Yeah.
different model.
Yeah.
This is a different model than the Maker. You have the-
where were you using one this morning?
Well, I was for Vacation Bible School. I'm making circles, so I was cutting out circles. I need 200 and some. I got 80 of them done, but and they're making it like you know how the Girl Scouts have that.
Badge.
Yeah, a badge, and so these will be their badges.
And the church has one?
No, I have one.
You have it. Oh, okay. But we have access to one. Is what I'm hearing.
Nelson has access.
Yes.
But I don't have I don't have the Maker. I have the Explorer. And I don't have the Explorer Air.
Only the finest. Louise is asking for some new tables as well for their meeting rooms. Flip tables, I think, are something similar to this. They're on wheels and they can be,
Yeah, they're just-
you can flip them up and then you can store them close to each other. New door counter system. That's been a request. We've actually gotten questions from the Board of Supervisors about door counts too. They want more granular detail about hourly data and things like that. So we need something that does, what we have now just counts every time somebody goes in and out.
They're a little wonky.
And they frequently have issues, yeah.
They frequently have issues.
Questions about any of those, Gordon, Green, Louisa?
I just had a question, because I know, the last meeting, we talked about adding, the audio visual stuff to each of the
Yeah.
branches. That has not individually, that's in a.
Yeah, that was budgeted for this fiscal year. Kayla's working on it now. Yeah, so by the end of this fiscal year, every branch should have some capacity there. Nelson's go-kart is not actually a go-kart,
Oh, yeah, I was getting ready to.
$31 go-kart.
And I can just see.
Some seat cushions, display stand, 2 display stands, rotary trimmer. I think that's for the garden, yeah. New book truck. Lindsay wants only the finest high capacity aluminum book carts for Northside.
It's north side. They
And-
get high capacity all the time
2 new sofas,
for the teen area. The
yes,
furniture there, and you can see through the,
yeah,
worn out.
they just get a lot of use. Scottsville, sorry,
She said it's a good, they get a lot of use.
Yeah.
That is good. That's a
Yeah.
good thing, yeah.
furniture at the library takes a beating, it gets used. So we can stretch it out as long as we can, but sometimes it's time to replace. Scottsville is very utilitarian, sign holders, display case, display bins, some bookends, displays, easels. They are asking for a message board and a little reading haven, it's a little spot for reading in. I'm having trouble visualizing that. So the total from all the branches, these are the requests that came in to JMRL administration from branches minus the things that I described. 117,388. From here on out, it's mostly tech equipment. So there are requests that came into Kayla from each branch, and then there are the regional things that she needs to account for. So we're looking for webcams for the bookmobile assistants. We're going to be driving hopefully out to Louisa and Nelson next year. Central needs a new self-check unit, which is a pricey item. They need mobile circulation laptop and hotspot. So this is something that you can take out of the building and you would have data with you and you could make cards and check materials in and out. Chromebooks for public use. We're exploring a checkout program there. We've got some in every branch now that you can come in and use in the library. But we're exploring a pilot that would be, you could take one home. Funding for this is approved.
What is the insurance and the upkeep on that? Where is that funded?
I'm not concerned about, well, the insurance, it'll just be a material basically. So it'll be covered by our insurance policy, which covers all the books and materials. It's like a blanket coverage for JMRL. And the upkeep will come from our tech department. Yeah. They're fairly simple. They have the Chrome operating system on them. So they're basically dummies. You know, they don't require software. They just require a license. And this covers the cost of the license as well.
So there's only 5.
Yes. Like I said, pilot project, so
Right.
start small.
The other question I have about them is their accessibility for visually impaired or handicapped people.
That's a good question. I have to check with the IT department and see. I know that we have had software on specific machines like reading software. JAWS was the program. The enlarging and things are native. They're built in there already. I don't know about the like text to sound. I think that might be a different. I'm not sure what the Chrome's capability is there. We'd have to check on that. It's not a full laptop though, so it doesn't have add-on software is not as easy to get on there. But that's a great question. We'll look into it.
And if it becomes really popular, then you could explore getting something that was owned. Could be checked out.
Yeah, well, if we're right, if we're gonna
Except for
offer,
particular-
yes, we would look for something that maybe was a little step up from that.
Yeah. And kind of,
What about the security camera upgrade?
Yeah, that's a nice little chunk of change.
And that's not even enough, really.
Yeah.
It's the cameras at Central are managed by and owned by JMRL, not by the city of Charlottesville. So it's a different scenario as yours. So any changes that need to come there need to come from JMRL.
Right, now we have two different sets, basically. They're not the same.
So this is, it's not enough for an overhaul of the system, but it would be enough to fix what's broken in there.
and I'm always interested in security camera stuff. Well, good, because I was gonna say, unfortunately, that's a huge issue. Right
It
now.
is.
You've got the, and you have the public in a closed space. You have to have,
It is,
and-
yeah,
and
it's
so-
And we found that we want to see outside. the
Right, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
More so that,
Yeah. It's sad to say, but that, I think you have to be very diligent and technologically ready.
Agreed, and the current system at Central. So it has kind of been one of the things that has been on the back burner waiting for a renovation of the building to get a true new integrated security system, new keys. You know, right now we've got exterior keys that are on an electronic system, but none of the interior ones are. So all those kind of security upgrades for many years, we've been saying when the building is renovated, then we'll get all these things, but now we're having to piecemeal, JMRL's having to pay for them instead of the building owners, so.
Can't wait.
Is there not,
and we can't do a full upgrade, I mean, because we had a proposed, we had a potential of that anticipated end fund balance is positive. It's not a good idea right now to do the full upgrade
Well, I think
because of the renovation that we want to do.
yes, and so it's a little bit Lucy and Charlie Brown in the football at this point, you know. I hesitate to commit the potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars to do a full security renovation there, and then turn around and have the building renovated. And at some point, we might have to commit to that. That we will spend, you know, or ask the friends to help fund or something like that. Or go straight to the jurisdictions and say, look, if we're not gonna have a renovation, then we need this thing discreetly done. But yes, you hit the nail on the head there, basically. It's we'll do what we can to make sure it's safe in the meantime until we can get a revision.
No, I got some baby.
there's always duct
Duct
tape.
tape, yeah, I got all different colors.
And budget books.
That's right. Oh,
Do they not have
What is that?
any charging stations at Central or?
There are charging stations. Which one are you looking at here? The,
It's the lower level, but it is heavily used to the point that's, well, it's heavily used. So I think we're looking for a second one for the main floor. Like, it's something patrons sometimes engage over.
it's popular.
It's very popular.
You can see one here in the flex area. It looks like a little, like a conductor stand almost, and it's got a bunch of different cords hanging out of
Right,
it.
yeah.
It's got-
Well, I've seen them at the hospital at the
Uh-huh.
VA and.
Yeah. You can get really fancy with those systems. You can have the ones with the lockers that
Yeah.
people leave things in.
Yeah,
This is one that you have to
stand there.
stand by. Yeah.
Well, ideally. it's-
Yeah.
They're supposed to.
I read an article in Sunday paper that said you should not use public. That hackers and technology thieves or whatever can substitute and.
Yeah, I read the same thing. So it would be something similar to like the credit card skimmer that they would put on a gas machine. So it's basically like a little thing on top where it's like you think you're just plugging in to get power, but really you're getting this other stuff. So.
All your permission.
So, as with all the technology that JMRL offers, we will do our best to provide a secure environment, and we will do everything that we can to make sure that our patrons have a safe experience. Yes, but there is a little bit of caveat emptor.
So.
But I saw the same thing. Yeah. In fact, I mentioned it to Camille last week when we were looking at hers, and I looked at it just to make sure there was nothing strange plugged onto the outside of it. Okay, let's move.
General has a lot of annual costs.
Yes, yeah, so similar here. A lot of these are software. So I think when JMRL first got into buying computers and software, all the expenses were paid for out of the equipment fund and were not operational. The biggest of which was our what we call an ILS, the integrated library system. It's our catalog, it's our patron database. It's the most important software that we have. That costs quite a bit annually to maintain, but it's worth it because the security of that, Wendy, is
Right.
our primary, it's our biggest charge, basically. We have everybody's name and information. So that was in here, it got moved out. I think ideally, most of these things would also get moved out because they are really operational costs now. It's things that the organization can't do without. It's not a piece of furniture that we could put off for a year. It's things that we
You
need.
can't drop them
Correct.
because-
Like our antivirus maintenance.
Right,
You
right.
couldn't have a rough year in the equipment fund and say, hey, we're not going to have antivirus next year. And that's not just for the public machines, it's for staff machines as well. Deep freeze is a software on the computers that keeps them from saving information, the public computer. So if you use it, it wipes clean and it starts over with a fresh slate. Envisionware maintenance, Envisionware is the system that manages the use and scheduling of the public computers at every branch. So if you come in and you need to use a computer, that's what you use in order to sign up for it. So you can see how they were tangentially equipment, but over time, this whole category here likely should be moved into operational costs.
Right, it is. Yes.
Subscriptions.
But it is a large pill that JMRL has paid for, so the board in the years to come will just have to make some decisions about what the priorities are there. If the priority is to get the municipalities to kick in a fair share for this, or if it's going to be other things that come up that we need operationally. I have a fairly good picture of what most of these are. So if you have a question about what any of them are, just from my previous life, I think I can answer all of them. If not, I will text Kayla. I was the IT director for JMRL. One of my previous lives,
What hasn't he done?
right?
He hasn't been the budget person. That's
Seems like that's where we are right now. Okay, so any questions or anything there? We did cut back on the number of, you see microcomputers there, micro stands and monitors. So this is a little bit in a shift of here. There is a chat question. This might be. It's Tony. Yeah, Tony had told me earlier that he would need to leave at 3. So.
Oh, golly.
So we have, if you go out here and see, there are public computers available that are full on personal computers, they're PCs. So they have a CPU, they have a hard drive, they have all those things in them. So we're going to pilot this thing where it's a microcomputer. It's basically you get a monitor and a keyboard, And then the computer is just this little box that has an operating system on it. It's not that dissimilar from a Chromebook, but it's powerful enough to run other softwares such as JAWS and things like that. We needed to run Office on them, things like that. So these are portable, and you also, the peripherals can be replaced without having to redo the whole thing. So if the monitor dies, you just put another monitor on. Keyboard, we do that now. If keyboard dies, you can't, but our monitors now are part of the CPU. If the monitor dies, then the whole thing is bricked. So this is a little bit of a halfway between, the tech committee had been looking at this thin client where everything lives on one main computer and pushes it out to these little dummy terminals. That ends up looking like it's not really cost effective, and the performance degrades quite a bit. It's not as good of an experience for the end user. So this is kind of a halfway between that, where they become more modular and interchangeable, a little bit cheaper, and then they can be repurposed throughout the life of them.
Did you say they were portable, meaning?
They're portable in the sense that you pick it up and move it over and plug it on another monitor to
But not the
use.
sense that patrons are gonna be walking around. and
No,
stuff.
No,
Okay.
they'll be affixed to the back of them, basically.
Okay.
In the sense that you would worry now that somebody would walk out with one of your computers.
Sports and things.
Yeah, they'd be like that, a little bit smaller though.
Okay.
So we did cut back. Initially, we were looking for 50 of these, but after discussions with Kayla, and this is a new thing. So instead of replacing 50 computers this year, we're going to try 30 of these microcomputers. If it works out, then this is the way to move forward.
We have more people using their own computers, so
Correct.
there's not as much demand for.
Correct. We have seen not everywhere, but in general, region wide, we've seen a decline in the need for the hardware. People need the network, they need the Wi-Fi, but especially almost all of our areas have a one-to-one initiative where the kids have a computer that the school has given them to use, so they can bring that in. They don't need our computer, they need to print, and they need the Wi-Fi. So
That's during the school year.
during the school year, yes, but we still have plenty of availability during the summer for them. Okay. And so this is it's a wall of kind of jargon here. So ask me about any of them and I'm happy to explain what I know. I don't want to go through every one, but. Okay.
So the top three are the ones that we're thinking about moving into operational costs.
I think it's more than that. I think that Fortress, Khajiit is the, Khajiit maybe could stay here, but it is the data for the hotspots that we have. We have the physical hotspots you can buy and you own them, but the data plan for them, we contract with this company to manage for us. Authority control is the work that we outsource, our catalog headers to. Our Dewey and Library of Congress headers go out to this group, which cleans them up and makes sure that they're up to standard. Things change, and then they have to update, that Charles is the king now, and so now it says King Charles. Anyway.
Spangled.
Yeah. Program registration is the computer system that we use to display all of our, it's called Trumba. It's all of our listings on our webpage, and people register for our programming events using that. So again, it's not really equipment, right? On and on like that. The SmartNet is the required annual maintenance.
Anything that says annual cost in parentheses now.
Pretty
something that
much.
we're considering going into operation.
Pretty much. The two discretionary funds make sense to me here. So there's some money here for hardware and software for things that might pop up during the year that Kayla and the IT team decide, oh, we need this, and it's not on the budgeting cycle. But looking at that, the locker support and maintenance, like we wouldn't just want to shut them down if there was a problem.
And so you'll just deal with it in the next budget.
The board will have to talk about this, and this committee will need to talk about it when we work on the next budget. It's been kind of on the back burner issue where we know that JMRL is spending down equipment fund money that likely is not going to increase over time. We're not going to see more and more money coming in there. It's going to get lesser and lesser, especially if there's an overall discussion about fines and fees and what we want to do.
Are you
Right.
kidding me?
I know how Alita feels about this. So you know, if we need to figure that out, then we'd have to have a very direct conversation about like, do these things belong here as equipment or are they operational costs? I think the answer is clearly they're operational costs, but we've been able to be a good partner to our
Maybe we have a
jurisdictions.
Total on that for,
Yeah, I think the subtotal there is $141,000.
oh, yeah, you do, but not on like the public computers, there are a couple of things, so, well, it's very few, oh, yeah. It's just like two.
Oh, things that would not be,
Yeah.
yeah, it would be the public computers and stands and monitors. Anything that's not a software, basically, the hardware discretionary. I think it would be somewhere, just ballparking it, I think it would be somewhere around 40,000 of that 100,000. Yeah. So that means $100,000 there that would be not equipment. But that's not what we're doing for next fiscal year. The operational
Right.
budget is already set. This is just a general philosophical conversation. We like to philosophize. Okay, so a couple other things being requested here. Gordon, some iPads to be used by the public.
Some wall mounts for those iPads.
Yes,
So they
wall
walk up
mounts,
to a wall and do what?
iPad.
I know, but do what on the iPad?
I didn't bring the full description
Okay.
here. I could look that up and send it back out. I'll send that back out to
They
everyone.
be broken.
Pretty sturdy these days.
Well, I thought you. Okay, I'm missing something about, I thought that was just where, if I need it, it's up on the wall, I just go get it from the wall.
You know, I think it's stationary.
Yeah,
Oh.
because you don't want people walking out with your iPad.
But it's
Oh.
like, we had one down at Central where the staff could use it to demonstrate to patrons how to download books.
Yeah.
How to use some of the features that, you know, they would use on their own devices, and they use the library one to show them how.
A wall mounted.
It's
It's
desk mounted.
standardized,
Yeah, the
it's
one
like
at Central
Walk
was-
away with it.
It was mounted to the reference
Show you.
desk. It was at the reference desk. So if you came in and said, I want to use Libby, you know, we could turn it around, show you right there how to
So
use one.
This would just be a different.
This one is for displaying upcoming programming information and allowing patrons to register for programs in Beanstack in the branch.
That makes sense.
Okay.
It says Kayla, thank you, Kayla, for listening.
That makes perfect sense.
Okay, a scanner, staff use laptop and a coin box at Louisa. Coin boxes are another, someday I will be so glad to not have these anymore. They're just, they break all the time and they're very expensive.
Plug in to get your print job.
Yeah.
And
Yes, it pays
there's,
for
yeah,
Why not?
and what's gonna happen eventually is most people don't carry money anymore.
For coins especially, yeah.
Especially, so we have options of like adding to their account if they have a library card, and then they can pay it online. Eventually, hopefully.
Yeah, we have enough people still using cash to get print and copiers, basically. So they're sitting next to those and they have, you can put a bill in, you can drop coins in, and that's how they can release their print jobs.
But they would like to be able to put a debit card in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So we take them up front and they pay at the desk with on the square.
And then
We
you
give them up
release the
front.
job for them.
What?
And then you go
No,
help them with
release
the job.
Right,
Yeah.
and then send them up front to pay for it. It works. fine. Or
Yeah,
do it
we're
with-
kind of in a transitional phase where this is old technology that's not really being used or supported. It's very expensive. They break down all the time. Yeah. But-
They put cheese coins, they put all sorts of coins in that have no business, they're not no coins.
But we have people that rely on them, and especially outside the urban ring, that this is where they go for those services, and they do have cash, not.
And we've been really
credit
lucky, we haven't had to get the change making machines, like the
Yeah.
ones where, you know, you have to put the money in to get the quarters out, like they have in other places, because for a little while we were afraid we were gonna. do
Yeah.
that.
cards. Okay, so Mont Ave, that's the digital lab downtown. Some of these costs too are similar. They are ongoing costs that's related to maintaining the avenue.org server. So it's not too much of that, but the last two items and some of the software discretionary is currently we're still supporting that avenue.org free web hosting within Charlottesville and Albemarle community organizations. So over time, that likely will phase out as well, but currently still supported.
Yeah, but it's, it's $100, so.
It's not, it's less than the coin boxes for by a large amount, yeah. 2 touchscreen microcomputers for Nelson Children's, so they're actually looking at a replacement for the AWEs. So Lindsay's getting new AWEs. Nelson's going to try something different here, basically, which are their own computers that we load software on that it operates very similarly, but it's not that branded AWE. There's staff going gardening. That was a lot of mulch they just took by. And an editor software for PDFs for Northside, which is a request from the public that we get sometime. Or is this for the public or for staff use?
I think it's for staff use. but
Okay.
it-
Either way,
ought
we
to
have a
be-
need
we
for
ought
it.
to be able to use it with the public.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
public asks for it.
They bring
Yeah.
in PDFs all the time.
And that technology is getting easier and easier and less expensive, so.
And then it kind of stuff.
Kayla says for the Adobe, it's for the public here.
Okay.
So staff will have to use the public here. I'm sure we can make sure that the staff has access to that tool too.
Be great.
Scottsville needs a new public printer, a new circulation computer, a third one. They have 2 currently now. They're looking at an outdoor projector and outdoor screen as well. They had a lot of room freed up when that tree fell down last year. So, make
One more
lemonade out of lemons, exactly. So they're looking to do some outdoor film screenings in the nice weather there.
They already have picnic tables there.
Yes.
Yeah, an amphitheater, like the Crozet neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, they do have a big space there now, it leaves a little flexibility too about, we had some talks about expanding the building too that way down the road, because they have a need for meeting room space that they can't meet.
I was looking at the thing about small towns and activities that you can do in small towns, and one of them, a small town in North Carolina, shuts down the main street and has a drive-in theater.
Oh, fun.
Oh, and it could be a drive-in library theater.
This one, there's not enough parking at Scottsville. Yeah,
There used to be driving in Charlottesville, right there on Hydraulic.
Yeah.
where the Kroger in the hole is.
across from the Kmart, yeah.
It's different names for that Kroger. That's the first time I've heard that before. And tried to write that down.
Okay, so here are the follow-up questions that I have from you all. How is contractual spelled? So I'll get that fixed. I'll look at, I'll look at the, I think Tony's right, there was some highlighting off that made the, yeah, we'll fix that. It's a formatting thing. We'll do that. I'll send out an email about what the contractual services were in that first line.
The service contracts or the contractual terms?
Let's do both, as long as we're,
I circled service contracts because that's the higher.
sure, I'll send both of that out. And we'll be prepared to answer that to the full board when they ask. I can't read my own handwriting here. I think it said, what are the iPads and the wall mounts for? So we answered that. Something about, the headers off for Central Y. Okay, so the only things that we had to fix were the contactual to contractual, fix the headers there, and then I'll send some follow-up information about those service contracts and contractual services. So we went,
And there's a question about.
Go ahead.
They have usage for-
yes, thank you. I knew I forgot something.
For what?
For the Chromebooks,
For Chromebooks, yes.
For the pilot.
my guess, so Martha, is that a go, no go for you? Is that a deal breaker if we find out that first year of a pilot, they are not gonna be what we need there?
No,
But I do wanna, we wanna make sure that legally we're obligated. If we're gonna provide this service, then we wanna make sure that we have an ADA equivalent for it for somebody else. So I think currently the equivalent would be, well, you can come in and use ours, but if we're giving them out, then we would need something that goes out. So thank you, great question. Any other questions about the doc here or the individual items? And if not, I'll take it off the screen and you can just have a general discussion about whether or not this looks good and ready to recommend, or if there are suggestions.
And we lost Tony, right?
Yes, Tony's gone. That's okay. He is he was a de facto participant. So the only committee member that's not here, I believe, is Thomas. Yeah. Somebody from the city.
Staff. Oh, yeah.
Who's the city rep?
That's great. Wendy, Alita, Thomas, Martha. We don't have a city rep on this. Yeah.
Well, that needs to be addressed for next year because there's supposed to be on this committee a rep from each jurisdiction. So we're missing one. Make one more note. I think it was Lisa
Oh, right.
and she left midterm, so. Okay. Wendy, what do you think?
Are there any questions or other considerations? Are we comfortable, David, giving us, email us that other information?
I'll email the follow-up information.
And I don't, it doesn't change my support for this. Individually, we're all okay with giving this and recommending.
I am.
Any questions, staff reps, questions about what people ask for, what you're getting,
No, it sounds great.
what you deserve?
Yeah.
You'll never get it.
That's
You
right.
Can't always get what you want.
Yeah, that's true.
I sometimes.
You get what you need.
Okay, so I will follow up on those few things and then make a fresh copy of this and it will be in the board members' handouts for the full board meeting.
So that-
You'll have to give a report.
Okay, and they can read it. What meeting?
They can read it in advance and then we can give them a little time in the agenda if there are questions about it.
Right.
And they don't have to vote on it next month. Yeah, you can just say, we talked about it, the committee is recommending that the board adopt this as part of the adopted budget. I'll send you some language if you want. And then the board can ask questions, or they can wait and ask the questions in June and vote in June. And then our new business manager will have to order all the stuff. This is a lot of, it's a big job just ordering and tracking and getting it. AJ's still catching up on last year's stuff, so.
Kayla orders some of it.
Kayla orders quite a bit of it. Yes, thank you, Kayla. That's all I have. So if you wanna, is there anything else on the agenda?
Anything else we need? Nope. So. Everybody's okay? Yeah. Adjournment? Yes. Amen.
Sounds good. Thank you all. Thanks so much.